So once again, thank you so much for coming to this session, which is the empowerment of women in the promotion of mental health. And my name is Eunice Wilson, and today we are Silver Ribbon. This is the organization, and Silver Ribbon is basically a non-profit organization. Mr. S.R. Nathan back in 2006, so a very long time ago before mental health was sexy. And we were basically, we were basically set up to combat mental health stigma as well as to encourage early help. Actually, I also want to say a very good hello to a lot of people joining us online. So thank you so much for being here as well. And since 18 years ago, our executive director, who is Posh Pro, you met very, very briefly. We've been working with policymakers, health agencies, and many stakeholders. We identify the gap in the mental health space. A lot of conferences, talks. Posh herself does a lot of training with corporates here and well, in Singapore as well as all over the world. She travels around to speak as well and advocate for mental health. And to Posh's, I mean, she's done amazing work, but she's also successfully advocated for the decriminalization of suicide and the removal of mental health queries in job application forms in Singapore. So very, very big deal. Really amazing stuff. And she, like I said, she's been working on it before mental health was sexy. She also established the Global Alliance for Mental Health Advocates, or GAMHA. You'll hear me say a lot of this today, GAMHA in short. And GAMHA is a mental health project initiated with the support. We get a lot of our presidents involved because, you know, why not? Just go to the top, right? The 8th president of Singapore, Madam Halimah Yacob, and we involve mental health professionals, mental health practitioners, advocates, 3 panel members that are joining us online. And first up, we have Miss, I think she's somewhere here, Ms. Pardon me. She's a clinical psychologist and Positive to You, as well as a GAMHA advisory panel member representing Malaysia. Yay. Next up, we also have joining us online from Pakistan, Professor Unaiza Niaz. She's the past Vice President of the Eastern Mediterranean region of the World Federation for Mental Health, and also a GAMHA advisory panel representing Pakistan.
Hello.
Thank you, Professor, and thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Last but certainly not least, we have also, this is very international, joining us all the way from Sweden, we have Professor Asa Konradsson-Gugen, who is an Associate Professor in Pharmacology, Uppsala University Department of Pharmaceutical Biosciences, and GAMHA advisory panel member representing Sweden. Amazing. And of course, thank you to everybody for joining us online as well. We have all 7 of you. So I have 2 big questions for you. And of course, one of the key objectives today is to really get a sense of what all the different countries are doing in terms of empowerment of women through the promotion of mental health. We want to talk about ideas, gaps, and possible solutions as well, so that all inspired to think about what we can do in our own country. And I think we did a poll, Posh did a poll with all of you who are attending the talk. And I think, you know, while many of you said there are policies that are being made, conferences, there are talks, and awareness, but still there's a lot that can be done. And I think we have some countries also that still saying that, like, you know, we need to have stronger policies around mental health. So this will be a really great discussion to hear all your ideas and really inspire us on what more that we can do. Because mental health isn't an individual journey, right? It's a journey of community. It's a journey that we have to do together. Okay, enough with me. I'm going to start with you, Silvia. Now, what is currently being done to promote good mental well-being of women in your country, and how are you personally involved in this?
Thank you, Miss. I will try to speak in English. So for my English, since my place, I try to work for the gender diversity and subjectivity of the people of the women. You, yeah. Okay. For my place, I work very hard in all refer to the woman to the gender, but it's very difficult in my country at this moment because all the we are regressing to the medieval times with the last measures taken by the president of my country. We have gone back 50 years ago in the gender policies, human rights, and mental health. Specialties of hospitals are closing. Professionals have been fired, and there is a direct attack on everything that had to do with gender identity. So, unfortunately, I could say that work was being done to eliminate gaps, for example, access to drug use devices at women, but now the gap has deepened because all the structure aimed at eliminating gaps are being eliminated. For example, the Ministry of Women has been eliminated, and the Institute Against Discrimination has been eliminated. Therefore, we are returning to the prehistoric times. I would never have imagined that so many achievements made in the recent years and after much struggle and effort could be erased in a stroke.
Yes, very clear.
Thank you so much, Silvia. Thank you. And thank you for sharing that as well. And I think, you know, whatever that you're doing is very powerful and really very important. So thank you to you and your team that is also here today. Ms. Prasad, maybe we can go to you.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Sylvia. And it's really depressing to hear what's hearing in Argentina. And I think being from Australia, we are often put up as sort of really leaders in relation to mental health, but it's a really depressing fact that the status of women is going backwards everywhere. And I think being from Australia, like I said, you know, we often have the glossiest and the best policy documents about mental health. But when you really look at where the funding is going, I'm from the state of Queensland. We have a $2 billion mental health budget, but less than 0.5% is spent on mental health promotion. And, you know, if you look at women's health, you know, women, cancer, cardiovascular disease, and mental health. And we know a lot about what we can do for prevention, but it's just a really depressing fact that mental health promotion is just not being invested in. And I think that is really the big issue for us. So, and I guess talking about mental health promotion, mental health promotion is really about taking social and political action. You know, if we think about what we can do to prevent mental illness, it's really about the social determinants of health. And so it's about investing in housing, you know, safe spaces, you know, elimination of gender violence, and all those sorts of issues that are typically sort of seen outside of the sphere of the health budget. And so, you know, working in mental health, and I've been working in mental health for over 30 years. So I co-founded an agency that's really trying to do this at a grassroots level. I've worked publicly. I've been part of the public health system in Australia, you know, where we invest all our money in hospitals. And about sort of 12 years ago, I became very disillusioned about just particularly working in multicultural mental health. So particularly, my experience is working with immigrant women. And sort of working in a public hospital system and seeing women constantly, you know, the disparities that we see, you know, the involuntary treatment rates are 3 times higher for immigrant women than an Australian-born woman. And so just becoming really disillusioned about the systems. Myself and 4 colleagues, we set up World Wellness Group. So we're a social enterprise, multicultural health service, working really at the grassroots level and trying to do something about the social determinants. You know, addressing sort of the cause factors that cause mental ill health. So when I've been asked to talk about, like, what are some really great examples from Australia about mental health promotion, we really need to look outside of the health area. And I'd like to share sort of 2 quick examples with you. And one is the investment in gender violence. So last year, the Australian government declared, you know, violence against women as a national crisis. It was a 30% increase A woman is dying every week due to intimate partner violence. So the government invested $4 billion, and really most of that actually went to community legal services. So really funding lawyers at the front end, helping women with those issues. And I can talk from personal experience. As a health clinic, we have a health justice program. We have a lawyer embedded in our health team, really working at that grassroots level, as women come through the doctors and talk to our doctors about what they're experiencing and getting that support at the grassroots. And you might say, well, what's that? Is that a mental health promotion initiative? Well, actually, if you talk to the women who get support from our lawyer, they'll actually say that that's better support than they get for mental health therapy any day, right? It's really those sort of practical examples that we need to look at. And another really interesting example from Australia, which is quite controversial, is the ban on social media for under 16-year-olds. And actually, the Australian government put that up as a due to the mental health concerns of young people in Australia. So if you look at cyberbullying, predatory behaviour online, the Australian government took that initiative, which will come into effect later this year, which I think the rest of the world is looking at, because it will be quite complex. But again, I guess I'm just giving examples of things that are really outside of this field, I guess, of typically what we would look in health, but it's really looking at other sort of areas and sectors, what we can do at a population level, because mental health promotion is really about the whole population.
Thank you, Rita.
I just like to introduce very short, because I graduated from psychology 1972 and joined to public health. So I get my master's degree in Taiwan, Taiwan University. Then I come to Johns Hopkins to get my PhD there. So suppose I should do public mental health. So I try to, when I go back home, I try to teach public mental health. Then the same year, in National Taiwan University, we start our women research program. I joined women research program, then start my gender concept. Even in Hopkins, I didn't pay much attention on gender. But if I go back home, the women research program really do a lot of work. And so we try to do some, like 1995, then we have mental health and gender conference. So try to do different way linked to gender and also do some research on gender. So for my, the responsibility, just promote the policy, promote advocacy. We like to have some more investment on mental health and follow World Mental Health Day. So I think that is also very good to us to use that as a push the government to do something. And if you see Taiwan's situation, actually this time we have 26 organized, 26 panels here in this CSW. Yeah. We see in Taiwan, actually, we are so active for the gender mainstreaming. And also we follow the regulation. So we have the machinery, national machinery. So we have our Department of Health Equity Committee. Yeah. So we have a real organization to take responsibility to promote the whole country's gender equality. Yeah. And but for mental health, I still feel not enough, because we try to eliminate discrimination, to eliminate some gender bias in different areas, even like violence against women or something else. And also we have provided the counseling after if you have some being sex abuse, etc. Actually, it is. But how is the gender concept for the people doing the counseling work? Still, some people they do, some maybe not. Also, we need to have some time to interact, to check how is the gender-based company. And so if you are interested, you can go to different countries, different panels here in CSW. Also, you can, of course, you can write some things to me. We can provide some information about Taiwan. yeah, we are just very happy to be here and share all the things happening in Taiwan and things international, because I came here in 1999. So it's already many years in CSW. Yeah. And I learned a lot here. And also, I think we also contribute ourselves, our knowledge to have the exchange. This is the basic gender's concept. And during this kind of interaction, we will have our good mental health. Thank you.
Can you do me a favor, Eunice? Can you read that question one more time?
Sure, no problem. So what is currently being done to promote the good mental health well-being of women in your country, and how are you personally involved in this area?
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? All right.
Yes.
My focus is very narrow, all right? I'm a psychologist and psychoanalyst, and I specialize in working with veterans, military veterans, and first responders, many of whom are female. And I've seen up close and personal what their struggles are, what they go through. My research comes from talking to them. It does not come out of the academic journals. I have presented on this around the country for vets and first responders. I've done webcasting, I've done podcasting, all right? Now, I have had the profound privilege of working with women who, as far as military veterans go, they are picking up a weapon and going on patrols with their male counterparts. I have had the privilege of working with women who are not only combat veterans, combat nurses, trauma nurses, who see man's inhumanity to man at its worst, all right? I have had the privilege of working with women who, as firefighters, run into burning buildings without question while everybody is running out to put out those fires and to rescue anybody who might be inside, and that would include family pets as well as people. I have had the privilege of working with female police officers who have to show up on the worst days of the lives of the public they serve. I have had the privilege of working with female dispatchers. And if you don't know what a dispatcher is, that's the person who you call on the phone when you have an emergency, and you get a dispatcher who assesses the emergency and then is the first incident commander. The dispatchers get a hold of the troops that are needed, many of whom are also women, to respond to all kinds of emergencies, both catastrophic and not so catastrophic, right? I have had the privilege of working with female EMS workers who have to go to massive motor vehicle accidents, buildings collapsing. They have seen death 1,000 times. I have had the privilege of working with female corrections officers who have to go in and take their own lives in their hands every day. These professions are, unfortunately, not too many people are signing up for anymore in America, and we are at a tipping point, all right? Now, getting back to what I try to do for mental health, the first thing we have to do is to point out that women are being treated differently than men. They have to work twice as hard as the men do to get half the respect. And in plain English, that turns my stomach. And I have to point that out every chance I get. The second thing I'm going to tell you is what we have to do. There's a common element between the populations of veterans and first responders. And that is these men and women are the first to see to the needs of everybody around them for absolutely first, and themselves absolutely last. Asking for help, asking for mental health services is stigmatized in these two patient populations. And I would say to anybody engaging in these populations, since we're talking about women, I would look that woman in the eye and say, ma'am, when you ask for help, you are not crazy. You are not weak. You're just in pain and you're acting perfectly normally to an unbelievably abnormal set of circumstances. That's what I'm trying to do for mental health for women in this country.
Thank you so much, Dr. Berry. Thank you for our panel here. Now I would like to move to the panel online, and maybe we can start with Ms. Yao Gate Chu. Gate Chu, are you here? Maybe let me put the microphone there.
Yeah, mental well-being is a critical aspect of overall health, especially for women who often juggle multiple roles in society. In Malaysia, there's been a significant push to promote mental health through government initiatives, NGO programs, and community efforts. Personally, I've also found ways to contribute to this cause through my involvement with Walking Post, which I will share more about it later. Malaysia has made a great stride in promoting women's mental health well-being. The government has launched several programs like the Talian Kasih Helpline provides support for women facing mental health challenges or abuse. There are also the My Mental Health apps, which offers resources and self-assessment tools, and it has already reached over 50,000 users in 2024. Additionally, the postpartum mental health support has been strengthened with 1 in 5 new mothers now being screened for depression. Awareness campaign like the Let's Talk initiative and World Mental Health Days event have helped reduce stigma and encourage women to seek help. This campaign has reached millions, creating a more open dialogue about mental health. Our NGOs like the Women's Aid Organization and All Women's Action Society plays crucial role also. They provide counseling, shelter, and workshop for women affected by violence or stress. In 2023 alone, the WAO supported over 2,000 women with 80% reporting improved mental well-being after receiving help. And our workplace are also stepping up. Many companies now offers employee assistance programs and flexible work policies to support women's mental health. 2023 survey by the Malaysian Employee Federation found that 40% of the company have implemented EAPs with a focus on supporting female employees. All these initiatives reflect a growing recognition of the importance of mental well-being for women in Malaysia. However, structural programs alone are not enough. Community engagement and individual participations play a crucial role in making a real impact. So we are positive to it. We are an organization. We are actually try to do the life education. So our organization is not specially focused on women's mental health, but the majority of our participants are women. So we actually offer a variety of mental health and well-being activities, including awareness campaign, course on emotional management, self-awareness, and life cultivations. Recently, we have been focusing on promoting co-working activities. These are actually what I would like to share you all tonight. On a personal level, I found that a unique way to contribute to mental health being through the use of walking pole. Walking pole are not just a tools for physical activities. They are also a powerful way to improve mental health to me. We actually started our co-working activities in July 2024. So I have witnessed its incredible power, a journey from a wheelchair to walking step by step. We actually teach the participants how to use the walking pole, and through the teaching of the walking pole, and we actually set up a group to let them train. So I remember 2 participants in a wheelchair, they actually at first faced with the hesitation and doubts. Then they have relied on their wheelchairs for so long that standing up to them is felt impossible. So at first they refused to try, afraid of falling and failing. But with encouragement, they actually finally gripped the poles and stood up shakily and took their first uncertain steps. So one of the participants actually, week after week, moved from the resistant to persistent. we actually follow them and guide them what to do. So slowly she walked more and more and supported by her family and our group's encouragement. Today, she's no longer need a wheelchair. So she gets out of the car and walk to our training sites on her own now. Before that, she had to rely on the wheelchair and she reluctant to get up from the wheelchair. To me, this is the power of the walking pole. It is not just about physical support, but also about psychological reconstruction. To me, I'm not looking at it with the physical only. To me, behind that, there's actually the psychological reconstruction. What I witnessed was not just her ability to walk again, but also her internal transformation. She smiles more, she speaks more, and she carries herself with a greater confidence. For initial resistance to and fear to being willing to try, from taking the first step to persistent forward, this is not only a change in movement, but a shift in mindset. So to me, this is one of the way where we actually have a platform for the participants, and from the simple tools, we actually guide them. Then we can see there's actually a psychology reconstructions behind. So this is one of the platform that we actually focusing this last year until now. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Now I would like to go to Professor Unaiza. Speak to Mike there. Professor Unaiza from Pakistan. Can I ask for your response, please?
Yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Professor.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased that you've invited me, and it's a great pleasure, as well as I think it's a great duty from the Eastern Mediterranean region that somebody should speak about these problems of women. But you know that violence against women and so many other problems are international, and they cross the barriers, except to see culturally they're different. And it also depends on, especially in Eastern Mediterranean region, which Pakistan is now a part of it. So here, mainly the problem is there's a lot of cultural pressure and a lot of pseudo-religious restrictions by the fundos or whatever, the so-called priests, because in fact in Islam there is no priest as such, I mean, anybody can stand there in the mosque and he can lead the prayer. But all sorts of things have happened over the years. And I think Pakistan, from the very beginning, had problems with the religious leaders, and they speak different language. They have strict rules, but they've been on the side. But each time there's a political upheaval, they come into action, like it's been happening now over the years, and it's almost 75 years since Pakistan is in existence. And I think not only that political upheaval, but you see, Pakistan has had 3 wars. One was separation of 165 war with India, then the Bangladesh thing, when Bangladesh got independent, and then of course the Afghan war. So lots of things have happened, and I've been very much involved in problems of refugee women and children, and how and the immigrants plus the IDPs. For example, in Pakistan, there was this special campaign to get rid of the terrorists from coming from Afghanistan area. They were not only Afghans, but they were, and I won't go into politics, but they were actually, paid people to do this mischief in our country. And it's been going on, and still something is going on now, in addition to political violence. So, I mean, there's so many things, one gets very flabbergasted what to do. So I do things like, I mean, on Women's Mental Day, I'd speak about things what's happening. You see, the most interesting thing, I must tell you, is that it's not that there is no legislation, there is no law, there's everything. And amazing thing is, lately it was so, I'll just come to the other one. Sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, I was told I can't use the slide, but I thought if I could, that would have been nice.
You want to share something, Professor?
Sorry?
Are you planning to share a slide?
I was thinking, but anyway, doesn't matter. Is it possible?
I think, yeah, I think we might not be able to do that. Sorry, Professor.
Yeah,
'cause-
yeah, okay. Because I think there's so many important things. In addition to what I said, the prevalent violence in different cultures. In our culture, it's different, and the media has now become free in some ways, but again, there are lots of restrictions. So the media cannot really let the public know in general. And there's some changes or whatever. Women are the ones who suffer. For example, during the COVID period, I think all over the world, 45 to 50% of the women with dual career families suffered violence. And that was in different forms, verbal, physical, all sorts of things. The interesting thing was that during that period, especially in, I would say, Karachi, Pakistan, which is a cosmopolitan city and a very large city, in fact, there was traffic jams, there was no public transport facility. It has been deteriorating. Pakistan, the socio-cultural things are constantly deteriorating instead of improving, unfortunately. And so at that time, women had to make sure when they came home, when they would, even if they would work from online from home, they wouldn't get a peace at that time. They couldn't go to a separate room and do their work. So because their husbands were constantly demanding, the children were demanding, we want this food and that food. And it's very interesting. During this period, I had lots of TV interviews and things like that. And I just said that, why don't you stand up? I mean, you stand for yourself and say, look, enough is enough. I'm not well. I can't do it. You do it yourself. And then gradually, especially the younger men, the generation which is age, say under 30 or I would even say 35, they were quite sympathetic to women. Whereas the older generation, my generation and others before me were very, very rigid. They wouldn't go to the kitchen, they wouldn't touch the utensils, or they wouldn't take care of the child, etc., etc. But these young men were supporting women. So that was wonderful. I think this new thing happened in Pakistan. And I think the newer generations are, because of the globalization, they're seeing things and they realize that if there's a financial crisis, this woman, in fact, the inflation rate has gone so much that women have to work to get the two ends meet. And if they want their children to have good education, etc., so they have to work. So obviously, only the women, not only uneducated, but the labor class also has always been working. But now educated women in upper class families are all more or less working. So they're working workplace for problems too. So one is that. The other thing which is very, would be interesting, I would like to talk about recently in Pakistan is workplace harassment. You see, this has been there for years, but nobody talked. As I said, even regular violence people wouldn't talk. And a husband giving a slap to a wife or pushing her or whatever was thought to be a normal thing. And a man came, he was angry, he was tired, he was overworked, etc., etc. Now it's not. Even verbal abuse is now considered by the younger generation as an abuse, etc., etc. So things are changing, but in pockets. So we have so much to do in our region. And you know very well that in our region, there's a war going on everywhere. The Gaza thing, the Syrian war, the Afghan war. So always the women in our part of the world, and that is Eastern Mediterranean region, and most of them, the religion is Islam. And Islam is so badly sort of propagated. It's amazing. I mean, even I would say the so-called educated, I think that's where the women's role is very important. That we first of all, as I said, in work also, not only workplace harassment, I would say the women who reach the top, they are not supporting the women under them, younger women. So I was strongly from this forum. I don't know about I will not compare with the West, but I'd like to say, I don't know what happens at your place, but in our country, we have found that if a woman is at the top, very rarely she'll support the woman if there's a harassment, which she's much at a lower level. And that is very sad. And so in most of these women's mental health days, I've been talking about that, and I'm very much concerned about the working women. And there's a new concept of mental health at workplace, especially mental well-being. So very frankly, during the COVID period and some time before, I heard this particular term, well-being. And it was only during the COVID period, seeing the patients and seeing, doing these TV shows, etc., I realized that I never gave myself, what you call me time. And there were so many demonstrations, etc., etc. But I never thought, even as a psychiatrist, that I needed time. I was always doing things, making sure that I'm perfect at work, writing papers, presenting, and being a good doctor, and including me, a group of my age group, which is nearing 70, 4 of my classmates, they were all doctors. They all died of Alzheimer's disease. Can you believe it? Or some sort of thing, or multiple, like diabetes or something like that. Whereas the ones who were at home, they had their own business, they had a longer life. So I am now promoting well-being in women. There's so much. I don't know where to pick the labor group, pick the middle housewives, pick up the young girl child. What to do? There's so many things we need to do in our part of the world. Number one is first education, and of course equal opportunities at work, and then ending of elimination of violence against women, workplace violence, which I think is very important. So I think these are the main things. Again, you see, the thing which I mentioned, and I like to reinforce it, women at the top must, I've been in all the international organizations, and I've seen, even if they fight for even elections or whatever, after when it's over, they sit and have a nice glass of wine or sit out and chit chat. But women don't do. If 2 women are standing against each other, they become enemies. And not only that, at workplace too, or any competition, or even, like, for example, national awards for performance, etc. They don't recommend, a woman will never recommend another woman, which is so sad. So I don't know where this thing will take us, but the more I look at it, it's like a Pandora's box. Things open up, So I'd very much like to hear but it's amazing what you're doing in Singapore and other places, that you are so active, and I don't think all these things are happening because law is very good. And in our country, basically it's a law, and then and we have very good laws, but they are not practiced. They're only on paper. And we are in political crisis. The population is so good. They're highly educated people also. They're bright scientists everywhere in the world. But in our own country, we cannot do what we want till this colonization thingy, which is still haunting us, goes on. So we have that problem. I think I've said enough. If any questions anybody wants to ask me particularly, I'm very happy to talk about
Thanks, Professor Unaiza. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for giving us that perspective. And I think the representation from your side of the world is really, really important. We know that there's just a lot more issues that we need to talk about. So maybe we can Professor Conradson to give us the final thoughts for this particular question. Professor Asa, please.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. And also thank you very much for organizing this event. And I hope you hear me clearly.
Yes.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Loud and clear.
Thank you very much. And before I go into my quite narrow area of talking about mental health in women, I would like to start by introducing myself. In Sweden, where I am actively involved in promoting women's mental health through both research and advocacy. As a researcher, I focus on schizophrenia and cognitive disorders, areas that significantly impact women's mental well-being. I'm also the president of the Swedish Schizophrenia Association. and a board member of WFMH, which is a Center for Women's Mental Health. And this is a research network. And I'm also a board member of European Federation of Associations of Family of People with Mental Illness, which is also called UFAMI. Through these roles, I work to improve awareness, treatment, and support systems for both women and men affected by mental health conditions. And I do all this because my brother was diagnosed with schizophrenia 37 years ago. And I was 14 by then. And this was the most terrible thing that have ever happened to me and to our family. But nowadays, I introduce myself as the younger sister who has turned the family's great sorrow into a driving force. And I'm from Sweden. And usually we are bragging quite much about how well our healthcare is working. And usually we say that women's mental health well-being is promoted through accessible healthcare, maternity support, early intervention programs, and workplace policies supporting work-life balance. However, there is still a lack of gender-specific research on the treatment approaches. So when we look into women with schizophrenia, there are a couple of key gaps in the mental health system, which include the lack of knowledge about schizophrenia in women, because the disorder is, the symptoms are different in men and in women. We have a limited understanding how hormonal factors influence mental disorders, and specifically schizophrenia. And the fact that antipsychotic drugs used or medications used to treat or ameliorate symptoms of schizophrenia is tested primarily on men. Women are not small men. We are different in the human body. We have different enzymes. We have a different amount of body fat. We take up medications differently from men. Medications are metabolized different in men and women. So to address these issues, we need much more research on gender-specific mental health interventions. We need better coordination between healthcare sectors and the clinical trials that ensure that medications are tested on both men and women. And we need increasing awareness of reducing stigma, which is crucial. And if we look at medication, sometimes when I teach for students, I can hear myself saying that there is a gender or sex-specific differences within schizophrenia. Men develop their first psychosis early in life, women a bit later. This first psychosis is usually less, what would you say, or is milder in women. Women do respond better to antipsychotic drugs, but have more severe side effects. And we also see now that some of the medication that we give to women with schizophrenia increase the risk for developing breast cancer. And so there's a great need of more knowledge when it comes to women with schizophrenia, not just in Sweden, but also in the whole world. So very narrow perspective from my side, but my focus is schizophrenia, and the reason for that is my brother, and I will try to solve why some people develop schizophrenia, and it doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man, but I will try to just solve that question. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you. Thank you for that perspective. I mean, I don't think it's narrow. I think it's we don't always hear from, and especially you have also first-hand experience. So thank you for kind of sharing that with us as well. I think let's move back to the physical panel here and maybe move to the next question. Really, maybe starting again with Sylvie, what gaps do you feel need to be addressed in the mental health system in order to support the mental health of women in your country? And what do you think are possible solutions?
हो गया किस पे नहीं नहीं 20 पे रख बेटा
Well, in my country, the Argentine government is considering eliminating no-binary ID cards by decree defining change to the figure of femicide. These are the measures that the executive is preparing against the LGBT agenda, which will be defended by sending a project at the beginning of the ordinary session of parliament. The government assures that it has a series of reforms in the pipeline to advance through decrees and resolutions in the official gazette. We are analyzing when and how to make them official. The inner circle of the government seeks to eliminate all regulations that include positive discrimination of minorities. That is why a sector of the ruling party investigated the legal implication that would entail prohibiting the participation of trans people in women's sport after the measure of the American President Donald Trump. The same applies to the Micaela Law. Micaela Law is a law which was sanctioned in 2018 and establishes mandatory training in gender perspective and violence against women for all the people who work in the executive, Congress, and the justice. The government is also working on the modifications to the figure of femicide in the penal code, which was incorporated through law 26,791. In the nation, they assure that they will make change in Article 2 and 3 to precise the penalties for both sexes. That is why they will remove the differentiation between men and women for the article. So the gap is very, very important because we need equal access to service of mental health because there are many gaps economics because many women can't access to therapy and treatment for the cost because no can access the public and private services. No perspective of gender. The system of mental health not always have a perspective of gender. So there is many experience that violence, discrimination, and there are two double impact because the human has the laboral and domestic work. There is stigmatism to the woman, and there are no human resource specialists, so psychology, psychiatry, specialists in woman and gender. There are the.
Specialization, right, of psychologists and so more kind of expertise in the area. Thank you so much, Sylvia. Thank you. And now for Ms.
Thank you. I think from all of us, we've heard different perspectives really about the social factors that are impacting on the mental health of women globally. And I think that fundamentally, if you're asking us about gaps and solutions, I think the biggest issue is that ultimately the policies that fund services and fund initiatives are gender blind and diversity blind. So, I mean, I'm particularly talking from the perspective who works immigrant women in Australia. And, you know, like if those policies are gender and diversity blind, then the resources are not going to be targeted where they need to be. So that to me is the biggest gap. Being from Australia, it would be really remiss of me not to talk about First Nations women. Statistic, 34% of all the women in prisons in Australia are First Nations women, but they're less than 2% of the population. So that is totally a symptom of untreated mental illness and trauma, lack of access to resources, and lack of culture-based services. And I think that all summarizes it completely about what the issues really are. So going back to, I guess, my mantra about the social determinants of health and social policy, that's what the gap is, and that's where the solution is. You know, we need to think about initiatives at that social determinant and community-based level. That's where we can make the difference. Safe spaces, housing, justice, you know, all of us have spoken about violence against women. That's really where we need to take our focus. And I think the other area really being women is that there's so much evidence about the life course of women and where we can make a difference. You know, like as they said, what we do for the first 2,000 days of our lives determines the last 2,000 days of our lives, okay? And so being women, we think about our life course, like if we just invested in early childhood, in more pre and postnatal care, you know, better screening, picking up the issues early. Think about, you know, 75% of mental illness generally occurs before the age of 25. You know, what are we doing for our youth? I spoke about the social media ban before in Australia, but, you know, there's so much more that we can do for young people, and particularly working in that multicultural area. Now, the social and cultural factors that really influence young women's health are enormous. And, you know, really, there's pockets of excellence around the country in Australia, but they're really like very poorly funded initiatives at the grassroots level. There just isn't a national comprehensive approach. What are we doing for carers? You know, as women, we are carers. We're the sandwich generation, caring for the kids and caring for our parents. You know, we live longer than men. What are we doing for older women and dementia and Alzheimer's disease? So I think the evidence is there. You know, we don't need more research. We just need action. So basically, and, you know, as Silvia said, you know, like the sort of the attack on gender and women, like what's happening with the sort of DEI, sort of, you know, what's happening in this country, it's happening in Australia as well. And so I think that really at the end of the day, the solution is that we all need, it's the number one issue, you know, we need to be around the table of decision makers. We need to stand loud and proud about our issues. And I think that's ultimately where we will make the difference. We need to make sure that our voices aren't silenced, that we are there to make sure that the policies don't remain gender diversity blind, you know, that we get voices heard. And ultimately, we're at a point in history at this point in time where forums like this and initiatives like this are more important than ever. And I hope that that's what we all take away, no matter where we work in mental health or any other area. As women, we need to ensure that our voices remain loud.
Yeah. I think Sylvia wants to just make a comment.
On February 1st, we had a massive march in the city of Buenos Aires. LGBTIQ plus community called for a march that was joined by citizens who do not want to return to the past parents and children, all the people from all socioeconomic levels say no to discrimination and homophobia. So I have a photograph to see all the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rita, for saying what you did. Thank you.
So right now, I just like to read the country because we passed our CEDAW 2009 because Taiwan is not being accepted by the United Nations in our situation, but we do by ourselves. So we have CEDAW national report. Right now, it's already 4 times. And based on CEDAW report, we have gender budget, gender statistics, gender impact assessment, etc. So gender impact assessment is very important. So we also follow from area. Yeah, you have gender impact assessment on suicide. We do some on depression and smoking. So I try to ask my students do research. Yeah, so do gender impact assessment on smoking, suicide, and just in certain different areas. So I use gender impact assessment. Our government asking all the regulation need to do program. Never after the program, they didn't make a gender impact assessment, so it's wrong. Yeah, but it's so they have enough space for us to make it more efforts. And because I'm talking about I do public mental health, so promote mental health is much important. So for mental health association, we try to do a lot of different things. If focus on women, we try to do women mental health video. Yeah. So tomorrow if you come, we have the 10:30 and welcome you come to listen our project. And also we try to do the mental health promotion too, because so many violence. If we didn't teach how to promote the mental health, the tragedy is always there, because you only after it happened and you do some counseling, not enough. It's not enough. So we need to do more mental health promotion in the beginning. So we have some program to teach the children through picture book, and you can read picture book then to know how you understand your emotional. You can process and then you will understand what your situation to learn. So this is from the school. And then we have also some resilience projects. And we're talking about because in a disaster, earthquake or something else, we always feel we will have the peer work in the last situation. Yeah, so we try to promote more emphasis on promotion. Of course, even I think that if the psychiatric patient, they also need to promote mental health. So we go through CEDAW, go through CRPD, those for those how to say government should follow for the national report, and we emphasize mental health. They should be pay more attention. So we try to do Taiwan Federation for Mental Health. Right now we have 72 organizations as our members. Yeah, so from the pregnancy assistance program to some organization. Yeah, I think that is all just action. But you need to have basic. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay.
So what gaps do you feel need to be addressed in the mental health system in order to support the mental health of women in the country, and what do you think are the possible solutions?
Okay. I'm going to answer that question in kind of in a very left field way. We can say, let's change attitudes. We can say, let's come up with programs. We can say, let's do research. But I agree with my colleague to my right who said, this is a time for action, not research. I love that. That is so great. What I'm proposing here is, by nature, I am a storyteller, in case you haven't figured that out. All right. Oh, am I a storyteller? And in order to change attitudes toward women in the two patient populations that I specialize in, veterans and first responders, sit these women down and listen to their stories. Everybody needs to hear these the stories these women tell. And I'm going to tell you why. Globally, I view the women that I have been privileged to work with in my consulting room, as well as in my personal life on a spiritual level. They are the true granddaughters of Joan of Arc. That's no exaggeration. And so I will tell one of their stories to illustrate that point. I am privileged to know just about the very first female flight medic who went in on the first wave that went into Baghdad during the Gulf War. And this is a woman who went out, who volunteered to go out on patrols, combat patrols. And this is a woman who almost had her career destroyed by a flight surgeon who was far beyond a chauvinist. He was a misogynist, and he almost got away with it. And she told a story on the webcast with us about about coming back from a particular mission with her uniform largely covered in blood. And she told about the casualties that she worked on: partial amputations, debriding wounds, patching these guys up who are shot all to hell during these eternal wars. And guess what, folks? She brought them, she was part of an effort that brought all of them home safe on that particular combat mission. They all came home safe. And when she got back, the flight surgeon who almost destroyed her career took one look at her in her disheveled state and said, "What are you going to do? Are you going to start crying now, little girl?" Oh, yeah. This is the kind of thing that goes on out here. And so what do we need to do to start changing the attitudes is point out injustices like that, but also listen to the stories these women tell. Invite them to tell their stories. They are fellow citizens. They are heroes. They are with us on the worst days of our lives, both in our backyards or in the wars that are fought. I'm here to tell you right now, if somebody takes sick in this room right here, somebody's going to dial 911, and there's a very good chance the medics who are going to show up, at least one of them will be a woman, and she will acquit herself brilliantly. These are the kinds of stories that need to be told and retold, because us men are too stupid to get it the first 500 times we are told. How's that?
Much respect. Somebody, a guy up here who says that. And now to Ms. Yao Chu.
Get you, you're on mute. Kitty, can I mute her?
Okay. Mental health is a critical issue for women in Malaysia and who often face unique challenges like balancing family responsibilities, workplace stress, and social expectations. While progress has been made, there are still significant gaps in the mental health system that need to be addressed. There are two key areas I think you want to share here and how simple solutions like pole walking can make a difference. One of it is I think that the stigma surrounding the mental health, there is a gap. And many women feel that ashamed to or afraid to seek help due to culture and social pressures. And this stigma prevents them from accessing the support that they need. So to combat this, actually we need more anti-stigma campaigns and the talks and the life educations. But I do find that the pole walking can play a role here too. By framing pole walking as a physical activity with mental health benefits, we actually can encourage women to prioritize their well-being without directly addressing the stigma. For example, we can organize pole walking events where women can exercise while sharing their struggles in a safe, non-judgmental environment. Over time, while these activities help to break down barriers and create a culture of openness around mental health. Actually, before we lead the I lead the pole walking activities. Actually, I normally share with them, and they will share a lot because this is a safe and non-judgmental environment. A second gap that I think is a little assessment to mental health service in rural areas. And to bridge this gap, we need to expand, of course, the more community health workers. And with the, on my personal level, that I also think that the pole walking can be a simple yet effective way to promote mental well-being in this area because it's easier to accessible and it requires only a simple tools. So by organizing these pole walking groups, we can actually create a supportive space where women can connect, share experience, and improve their mental health together. Besides the case study that I shared just now, actually beyond this specific initiative, I have observed that many participants from our groups are becoming more relaxed during the activities. Their level of engagement has increased, and I have spoken to one of the participants, and they find that the walking pose is easy to incorporate into their daily routines. And I can see they are able to proactively share what they have learned with others and encourage others to join in as well. So with all these stories like this inspire me actually to continue promoting walking pose as a simple yet effective tools for mental health. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ms. Yao. Thank you. And now to Professor Unaiza.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, nobody mentioned cybercrime. You see, in Pakistan, it's become so common, especially on Facebook. You know, these boys and girls get in touch, and they, the girls usually think it's a young, smart, good-looking boy on the thing, and they start, and they're actually going through all sorts of this kidnapping and you know, asking for ransom, having nude videos, and all sorts of bizarre things, because Photoshop is brilliant, you know, in that case, it's helping all these culprits. So that is one thing which is happening in general population. And that's why I think when something like this happens, parents usually say, well, there you are. It's you shouldn't go on Facebook. You shouldn't know anything about computers. But if you do not know about computers, if you do not have good digital know-how, how can you survive as a leading woman or whatever, or being important women's leader in the community? You need to know that. And I think that for this cybercrime thing, there should be something which we should think about. And I think in every school and college, especially in high school and colleges, this should be taught, and they should be taught how to prevent all the information. So and then with A1 thing, all sorts of bizarre things have come up. So I think this is another nuisance, even in place like Pakistan, very much right nowadays. For example, the leaders, for example, we had Benazir, they had, at that time, they didn't have the digital thing, but now this other woman is here. There's so many other legislators or whatever, and the opposition hire these professional men to make films and things. And then really, it gives them not only misery and depression and embarrassment, but you know, they whatever position they've gained in the parliament or the Senate, they just leave it. So I think we need to talk about that also. because these were the women who were really strong. And I tell you something, when it happens even to the strongest woman, some you see digital A1 whatever worked out video, filthy one, and it gets an awful feeling as a woman. And I've seen these women, very high professionals, very well respected, and but somehow, because of competition at work, or their enemies, or it's just that she's too smart. There's some psychopathology, I think, happening in our part of the world also. Maybe, I'm sure it's happening everywhere. That when they see smart women and doing things and not really interested in whatever other things which men expect, flirtation, etc., they don't like it. And then things like this happens. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof Unaiza. Thank you. And maybe just have Professor Asa to wrap up for us this question. Professor Asa?
Yes, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I can see my face now behind your back. So thank you very much. It's very interesting to listen to all speakers, and I would like to comment on one thing that Rita brought up, which was the caregivers situations. Women are usually caregivers, or the main caregivers, and a study from UFAMI and research from London School of Economy did a study, an interview-based study, to look into how many hours do actually informal caregivers, because we don't get any paid, informal caregivers spend to help out for the person that is suffer from severe psychiatric disorders like schizophrenia, bipolar, or deep depression. And informal caregivers spend, as a mean time per week, 43 hours per week to help out for the person they love and that needs help. And 27% of these people, most of them were family members, and most of them were women, and most of them were moms. Not that many siblings as I am, because I am the one taking care of my brother. And 27% of these people that answered the questionnaire, they suffer themselves from depression and or anxiety disorders. So it's a huge field that we need to consider. And then I would like to comment on Andrew, because he said it's time to sit down and talk. There's no time for research. And we should listen to the stories. And I totally agree, because with the stories we can get rid of stigma, we can highlight the awareness, but I don't agree. We really need knowledge before opinions. We need the stories, but we need knowledge, and we need research to get to knowledge. As I said when I talked in the first question, we do lack knowledge about not just schizophrenia, we lack knowledge about ADHD, bipolar disorder, depression, when it comes to hormonal factors, how they influence mental disorders. We don't have enough knowledge about what kind of doses we should give women that are affected by mental disorders. We're pushing women into side effects that are not okay. We cannot deal with that just by telling stories. We need research. We need numbers to get our politicians aware of this. With knowledge and personal stories, we'll get along. So I think that was so. I think more research, and also bring the stories up on the table. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Professor Asa. Thank you. So stories and research together and combined with action. Yes, perfect. Do we have any questions for our panelists? We still have a little bit of time. Yes, maybe I take this lady over here first. Hi. Maybe you can tell us your name, where you're from, and then also who you want to direct the question to.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
My name is Frida, and I'm coming from Cameroon. And my question is to all of you, because in my country is all the problems that talk about. We have many women in prison where the dignity does not exist anymore. First, they raise us to be silent. We don't have a voice. Now we're trying to teach our daughters to speak up. It's difficult because we, this new generation, we're doing the work. We still have our parents, grandparents who have the same mentality. So we need to fight against them to have them understand what we're doing. And also at the same time, when you talk about mental health, does not exist in my country. They call you crazy and they put you on the box. If you see a woman in Cameroon in prison, she is like an animal during her period. Something that is natural and human. So my question is to all of you. We are trying to put actions. We're listening. What do we do? Because government, we don't do anything. We, this young generation of women, we're trying. But we have to have those ideas and this help coming from somewhere. And also be in a position where we can explain to people that what we're doing is to help. So all of you, this is what everybody talked about.
Is one of the panel, anybody? Maybe, yeah. Go ahead, go for it.
Okay. I worked as a diagnostician in a state-run super maximum prison. That was my first job out of graduate school. And I have not been to your country. All I can do is comment what I have seen as far as the prison system goes in the United States. To me, a prison system is nothing more than a very poorly run mental hospital. Okay? Just to properly tend to mental health. Okay? We are barely ahead of the dark age of the police. Veterans are, and this will apply, just give me a minute. Okay. Veterans are their wits end with asking for the sick, sad piece of Americana that goes on every day. So what do? They take care of each other.
Yes.
Okay. And so in your country, I hope I'm not out of line. If the government is doing nothing, encourage a movement for the women to start taking care of each other, to tell their stories and to yell, to stick to their convictions and to yell louder and louder. Eventually, you'll be listened to. That's the best thing I've got for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Maybe if I can just, I don't think we can pull the microphone to you, but maybe you just speak up a little bit more. Yeah. Sorry.
A nation population of 220,000 people. And I stand here with my sister from Cameroon. Since years, nobody knew what mental health was. I am a counselor by profession. So my husband and I, we are actually ministers of the church, and we are lecturers at theological college, because our country is faith-based. So we decided to go into this whole research of psychology, psychiatry, counseling, to see how we can help our people in this space. It's been years and years of knocking and singing the voice. But because of our faith, we praise God that they are hearing us. Now the government have put in place policies. They have put in place, so that we can get these things passed. But the most important thing is listening to the story from the heart. It's listening. We have to use what we have on island. We don't have all the resources that most countries have. All the social services that Australia have are brilliant, but it is not utilized to the best of its quality. But for us on island, we have to use the story and trying to help in that way to vent, so that then you get a clearer mind as to how we can help. But to date, since 2016, the voice has been heard. And because we're trying to do these issues, social issues like ending violence against women and girls, our rehabilitation in prisons, everybody are all volunteers to listen to the story now. All the NGOs and CSOs are all counselors. All the ministers in the church are all counselors, because we don't have the skill base or the resources to educate our people as to how to be in this space. So we're doing the best way we can. And I just wanted to share that with you, that it is not easy, but it takes years of knocking at the door and letting them, educating our politicians, educating our, church. This is the space we need to look at. This is very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, maybe over here and then the lady over there. Yes, please.
Just wanted to go back to your question, because I think Rita did put her hand up. I have worked with Rita, and I think you do have a lot to offer in terms of what you can do when you don't have government support. So if we could hear from you.
Oh, Rita, yeah.
I guess the question was really about what can we do? That women's voices are being silenced. You gave the example of prison in Cameroon. You gave the example in Samoa, about lack of resources. I guess, yes, I'm from Australia. We usually are seen as, a rich, well-resourced country with a lot of services. I work in multicultural mental health. So I work really with communities that are excluded from the system as well. And I guess our experience is we have to organize ourselves at the community level. Okay. And so when I talked before about being health workers, working in the public system, but getting decisioned and just getting together and figuring out a way forward to set up our own services, like that's what we did. And we set it up as a social enterprise. We never got any government assistance. But I just feel like when you try to do good, somehow good things happen, So being organized, being a collective, reaching out for support and getting behind women who can have political power, right? So yes, our voices are being silenced. We are in an era where there is an attack on women. Let's be, true about that. And someone before made a comment about, women tearing each other down when we get to the top type of thing. It doesn't have to be like that. I think we need political power. So we need to get behind women who are in positions to make a difference. And like I said before, everything is so gender blind. We just need those voices heard. But it all starts at the community level, and we all had examples. Silvia talked about big rallies in Argentina. We need to get ourselves organized at the community level. So hearing what happens to women in prison in Cameroon is obviously devastating. It's terrible. And I'm sure, you're part of already organizing and that's why you're here, right? That's why you're here. So, and I hope that you find solidarity and support from the women here, because there is a lot of support to be given and a lot of information to be shared. And I think that's what we have to take back with us as inspiration, because it's a hard battle.
Rita, I apologize, I didn't see your hand up. And is there anybody, any other of the panelists who want to address what she was talking about government? Unaiza? Prof Unaiza?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe Prof Unaiza, and then we have an online question, and then this lady. Okay, Prof Unaiza, please.
Yeah, I'm being a little philosophical or whatever. I mean, we are delicate. Men and women are physically, different, as we all know that. And women will always be comparatively physically, not that, can't physically fight these guys. So I think there's certain things which we can do to tell women, take care of yourself, your health, be
Can't always do
and be happy and create and women don't have such places. We do have women groups, but they only talk of fashion and children and not having a baby boy, etc. Airship, and they're all looking, and Pakistan has become very materialistic. All women are talking about your clothes, which big diamonds she's wearing. Oh, good, your daughter should be married to a millionaire so that she can have a Mercedes and have diamonds. So instead of that, I think we need to do this at the education institutions. And education is, of course, the most important thing. And number two, I think that the women have to themselves look in the olden days. All the women, for example, even Prophet Muhammad's first wife was a much older woman who was an independent businesswoman. And Prophet Muhammad worked for her. And then finally he married her. And not only this, in every religion, in every period of life, there have been women who've been in power and they've done well. And but you see, the few of them get a chance. So I think we need to encourage each other to do that. And then when something like that happens, please support them. Even if you can't do anything, legislation is there, the judiciary won't do anything, there are no witnesses, at least support that woman and trust her. And I love what that gentleman said about this hearing stories. Not only hearing, I think that they should be asked to write what they've gone through. And the narratives not only you can make a little booklet or something, and when you're doing the groups, etc., let them read that. And of course, make little videos. So, and I think in Pakistan, there's one channel, Geo, which lately I've been watching at late night dramas. And it's amazing. This lady has picked up, or the writers have picked up certain things which are so common. And I used to see, I still see it in my clinic. And I think people are amazed. And I told them it's nothing out of fantasy or whatever. It's real. It's happening and it's real. So I think we have to make women strong, happy, confident, educated, and empowered. If you have money, you can always go away or do something. But that is the most important. This will happen. I think that the rest of the world, people will be fighting. There'll be warriors, there'll be winners, there'll be losers. But the one thing we can do at this stage, use our gray matter and at least protect ourselves. And if any one of us is in trouble, please cling to her and help her. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really want to follow up that, but
thank you.
Okay, very, very quickly, we have a couple of things to do. Maybe if I just get questions from Laura as well as from the two of you, and then we can try and consolidate the questions. Maybe I can start with you.
Someone up there one.
Yeah. Laura, I'll get to her in a minute. Yes, please.
The microphone.
Yeah, we just.
For some particular justice. I think my question is twofold. In the generation that we're living with, because I'm young, we have parents who are sort of in denial because they've grown up in an age where mental health is not a thing, and they've built this resilience and this ought to be strong, and they've developed mental health issues along the way. And they're raising young shield. And so what would your maybe advice be to young people who have older parents who have mental health issues that are in denial, but also young people who are overly reliant on, I'm anxious, so I have a depression, or the self-diagnosing of young people and what's the balance between us building resilience and acknowledging that there are mental health issues, but at the same time, making mental health a crutch and not building that resilience, but at the same time, yeah, so that's just how do you build that balance?
Thank you so much. So one question on balance, maybe we can have your question, and then we can try and solve it. Here, I might get you to come out here.
Working in the African region on women empowerment and GBV. And my question is on the financing aspect. I've worked in terms of health on the continent, and one of the problems is out-of-pocket expenditure for the African population, for developing countries, especially when it comes to health expenditures. And mental health, there's already a stigma attached to it. And then add to it that it comes at a higher cost, even for countries African countries that have policies and mechanisms in place to provide mental health care, but it comes at a cost to the individual. So it becomes a luxury instead of a necessity. So what are some of the tools that you have seen that could be replicated with developing countries to ensure that it's accessible to all as well in terms of the financing aspect?
Okay, maybe we'll just do this two very quickly and ask the panelists to keep it brief, and then we can go to Laura's question.
Laura has no question.
Oh, Laura has no question.
She was
Okay.
clapping.
Okay. All right, thanks, Laura. Prof. Chang.
I think the whole process.
Which one do you want to address, the balance question or the financing? Balance question.
Because everything is make effort. Even in Taiwan, we found our national health insurance in 1995, so it's 30 years. And health, women gender equity committee, 2012. So it's all make efforts for so many women, give the voices from the local. And also we have some regulation to work for migrant women, foreign workers, even provide some health insurance for them. So I think it's the different countries, they do have efforts to work on different issues. But I think that the voices is very important. And you collect together and you can take action. And also mental health promotion is very important. So right now, sometimes we have discrimination on stigma for mental health term. So we use resilience to make everybody know we have resilience when we find some frustration and you can overcome and find some resources. Yeah. So tomorrow evening, we have celebrating Taiwan women resilience and program. So we welcome if you like to come in our TECO office. Just later, can write your name to me.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you. And did somebody take the question on financing? Maybe Rita? Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
I don't have any answers, but financing is a big question. But I guess just give a local example that may be applicable. Integration of physical and mental health, right? So I think, like you said, mental health often gets left off. It's the poor cousin in health funding. But if we have a better integrated system, then mental health will get picked up anyway. So in our clinic, we're a physical health clinic, but we set it up with mental health at the core of everything that we do, right? So all our doctors have a mental health lens on their work. And if we just had a health system that had a mental health lens on our work, we would have an integrated approach. Because whoever came up with the idea that mental health is different to physical health, like we're one body, we're one spirit, we're one mind, right? So the thing is, it's all integrated. And so it's just reframing that thinking. That's the best that I can offer, just from a local example of how we've gone about it, but just that's not separated.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you, everybody. Can we give our panelists a big round of applause? Thank you. So Prof. Chang, Dr. Gary, and of course online Prof. Unaiza as well as Gipchu. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm sorry we can't get to everybody's questions, but I hope that the panels have inspired all of us to think about how we can promote mental health in our country, especially amongst women. And I think that one of a couple of big things, you must always have a gender lens to whatever you do. A lot of action, cultural-based policies, kind of storytelling is a big one that has come up. Videos, obviously, kind of social media access, gender-specific psychologists and psychiatrists to be able to deal with these issues. So thank you so much for your insights and perspective. Thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate you. Please keep the conversation going in mental health, especially in women. And now we're going to just take a group photo. Is that okay?
Yeah,
all right, so
stay
stay seated and then